Speak to someone who is in Ukraine, in the city of Kharkiv. Mike Litovka, an English teacher and the founder of an English school who's lived in that city in eastern Ukraine for 12 years. Thank you for joining us here on LBC News, Mike.
Thanks for having me.
Well, you're very welcome. Hopefully we've got a good enough connection, given obviously what's going on around you. What is the situation in Kharkiv at the moment?
Certainly. So at this point, there are a lot of evacuation efforts which are taking place in the city. Fortunately, I got a chance to get my family out of Kharkiv and Kiev, but that was a very close call, and there's still a lot of people who are currently there and are at the moment as we speak, they're either taking cover in the bomb shelters due to the fact that there's constant bombardments. And in fact, my girlfriend's family is still there at this point. They haven't left. And the market, which is located just next to their house, literally, I don't know, maybe 30 or 40 meters away from their house, was shelled and burned down. So this is like a really frightening scene there right now.
So you're in the west of Ukraine now, but you still have relatives then in the east?
Yes, that's right.
Okay. This has been going on now for a week and a half. There is a suggestion that we may not have seen the worst of what's to come. How do you feel about all of this?
Yeah, we definitely heard of comments and concerns about this. And to be honest, when it all started, I think most people on the first or second day expected that it would be something like kind of a scare tactic. It would be there for a day or two, and then something would be decided. But, by day two, we understood that, okay, we're in this for the long haul. And we're still expecting that we're hoping that something will happen sooner than later. But it seems that this is going to get dragged on for quite a while.
And when you say something, that's a diplomatic solution, talks rather than violence?
I would say that would be the ideal situation, but as we can see, the Russian military does not respond to diplomatic solutions, and all the efforts that have been taken up to now are being absolutely destroyed. We had a previous agreement due to some talks and negotiations that were happening. There was a previous agreement to create humanitarian corridors from various cities, various melting pots such as Mariupol, Volnovakha, Kharkiv, and other places. But these humanitarian convoys, right, the evacuation efforts that were supposed to happen, were completely, they didn't happen because they started receiving fire. And that's why yesterday those evacuation efforts didn't take place. So the green corridors, as they like to say, are quite a common tactic, I suppose. We saw this back in 2014, and we saw it in various countries, quite a common tactic used by the Russian military. And then, of course, this news is going to be twisted, and in Russian news, we're going to hear that the Ukrainian military shot at at the evacuation convoys. So really very unfortunate and very infuriating, to be honest.
What is your perception of the resistance that's being put up by Ukrainian forces and indeed ordinary Ukrainian people? Are you aware of people who've actually had to get involved in fighting?
Yes, and this is something which is probably one of the most inspiring things about what's happening here, because at this moment, I don't know, in history, at this moment of this conflict which is happening, this is a moment of unity like I've never seen before. And both the military and the civilians are showing amazing courage in all of this. The military is standing literally facing one of the biggest armies in the world, the one that was considered to be almost, I don't know, by most experts to be almost invincible, are definitely a huge threat. But due to a good understanding of what's happening and planning, and I suppose other tactics, we're managing to hold them back. And the second point is about the civilians, right? To be honest, this is one of the most inspiring things and a huge point of pride, especially if we look at the city of Kherson, which right now has a lot of Russian military inside in the city, and the city of Melitopol, where the civilians are actually massively coming out to the streets en masse and protesting the presence of the Russian troops there. So even though they are there, people are coming out by the thousands to speak up with flags, and they're not afraid. Even when soldiers have taken warning shots into the sky, they keep on coming. They don't stop. They move in columns toward these soldiers, and doing their best just to push them back. And this is such a moment of pride and inspiration. If people are ready to come out and defend their cities like that, they're not indifferent. They're doing everything possible that they can, even if at this point there is no Ukrainian military presence in the city. But the people are coming out with a very strong statement that's saying Kherson is Ukraine, Mariupol is Ukraine, Berdyansk is Ukraine, and we're not going to stop until we take back our homes.
And that's a real visceral feeling among people in Ukraine, it would seem, that feeling of being Ukrainian rather than being allied to Russia. Obviously, Ukraine was in the USSR for all those years, but there's a real strong Ukrainian identity there.
Yeah, that's correct. That's something that I've been really happy to see, because if we go back a little bit further in history, when we first separated from the Soviet Union, there were still a lot of ties to there, and these ties were used. I suppose various politicians played upon this and upon this supposed difference between, right, there's the more Russian-speaking part, more Ukrainian-speaking part, and they tried to divide people according to these boundaries. And then there were some cities which were more patriotic about their city rather than about the country, right? But at this point right now, nobody is thinking in these terms. Everybody is thinking just to one effort. They said, we have one home, this is Ukraine, and everybody is united in their efforts to do what they can, where they can, and how they can. So people who have had previous military experience, they go and voluntarily sign up. People who do not have military experience but can be useful in other ways, for example, IT specialists. At this moment, as we speak, there are many of them who are providing DDoS efforts for the infrastructure, Russian infrastructure, which is facilitating this military invasion. And other people, for example, like me, who have contacts with friends and others abroad or here within Ukraine, we're doing everything we can to help these evacuation efforts that are taking place from those cities, and also to bring humanitarian aid to the places where it's needed most. And of course, sharing the story in the media.
Mike, Litovka from Western Ukraine, speaking to us from Western Ukraine this afternoon.